Welcome to the FAST Podcast, your go-to source for financial advisor strategy talks. Hosted by myself, Candace Burns, the lead creative designer on the marketing team at White Glove. And with me, I have Dean Thurman, co-founder of both White Glove and InvestWise Financial. Join us as we dive into valuable insights from industry experts, providing actionable tips to accelerate your success. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the FAST Podcast with myself, Candace, and with me I have Dean. So today we're going to be talking, just the two of us. I mean, Dean's really going to be deep diving into some answers. We're going to talk about the major inflection points in a financial advisor's career. We're going to be going over all the different expectations to have when deciding to be an individual practitioner or operating a multi-advisor business, and really anything in between and anything else that can be an option or a path that anybody can take within the huge FA industry. So, Dean, you're such a great person to hear from on this topic, just due to your massive network through White Glove and through InvestWise. I mean, you're talking with hundreds of advisors every year. I mean, new and old, and just seeing so many different examples and ways to run a business. I think that you're a great person to talk to about all of those struggles, maybe some consequences of one or the other, some advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. We're going to get into all of it, who's the right type of person for each side, and just kind of how to create the path, or follow a path that might be best for you. And I'm sure that even changes along the way. So I am very excited to hear all of your insight on such a massive topic, but we're gonna really try to hone in on a lot of these ideas here.
Well, thank you, Candace. I've really been looking forward to this particular episode and the topic because our industry is such a fantastic industry, and so many good men and women get into this industry to help people, but there's really no clear career path. It is a very complicated, timeline and decision points along the way throughout your career. I've been doing this 34 years, and like you said, I interact with a lot of people. And one thing I've learned, uh, there's no right or wrong way to develop your career. It's whatever is right for you. And I don't think many people realize that early on in their career, because the first few years is really about survival. The vast majority of people that get registered or licensed in our industry, they kind of just fade away within the first 2 or 3 years. If you make it 5 years, that's a real success story. You've likely figured out some type of marketing plan, whether it's seminars or something else. I think seminars are by far the best way to build a book of business. Maybe you've partnered with somebody, maybe you have somebody in the industry, maybe somebody in the family. But after that 5 years, it's really decision making time. It's like, hey, do I want to work for a bank, a wirehouse? Do I want to work for an independent broker dealer or a big national firm? Do I want to be a boutique? Do I want to have a lifestyle business? Do I want to be a solo practitioner? Do I want to have other advisors underneath me, or do I want to be underneath somebody else? And that's really what today's episode is about, kind of the pros and cons of some of those decision points.
Yeah, I mean, so before we even get into the pros and cons or the differences between any of those paths, let's start from the beginning. So tell me a little bit about that 5 year time frame that you're talking about. That's right before you even get into making that career path decision.
Oh my God, that's the worst. That is the absolute worst time in any advisor's career. It's filled with everything from super excitement when you get a new client to crushing rejection from that new client that says, you know what, I've changed my mind, cancel all the paperwork, I'm going a different direction. That happens to all of us. It is the first 5 years. I say it's a roller coaster would be too kind. It's more like you're in a washing machine going through a wood chipper on a roller coaster. It is really, really tough, especially if you try and build your own career from scratch, which is why a lot of people, and this is one regret I have probably in my career, why a lot of people start off with a big wirehouse, like I'll use some names like a Merrill Lynch or a UBS, Morgan Stanley. They have fantastic training programs. They help you get registered and licensed. And other people like myself find a small boutique financial planning firm and just have that guy or woman who's kind of runs the show there, um, kind of be a mentor a little bit. And there's, like I say, there's no right or wrong, but I probably
Hmm.
wish I would have gone the big route first before ending up where I am today as uh, independent uh, an independent advisor.
We'll definitely have to dive into that statement right there throughout the episode then for sure, because that's really interesting, and I feel like that's eye-opening for anybody who's making a decision now or even in the very beginning. So it's interesting to hear you say that. So then now I guess let's dive in. I know that a lot of our listeners already know, but just to kind of get a start to more of the technical side of today's episode, let's dive into the pros and cons of both sides of that story that somebody can choose.
Oh, I tell you what, that's a great question, Candace, because there are massive pros and massive cons to making those decisions about how to affiliate yourself in this industry, and then how big or small of a group do you want to work with. And it's not a small pro and con like should I have chocolate chip ice cream or mint chocolate chip ice cream. This is massive. And again, there's no right or wrong. It has a lot to do with the opportunities that are in front of you, but also your own individual personality type.
Hmm.
So you have to have some self-awareness. You also have to have a discussion with your family. Usually in your late 20s or early 30s, when you're making all these really big decisions, there's a lot more than just you that you have to consider when you're thinking about risk taking and getting over to starting your own firm, let's say, or how much traveling you're going to have to do. And so the first big decision really is, do I want to work for a wirehouse? Do I want to work for just an RIA? Do I want to be insurance only? So I suggest that everybody really talks to other folks in the industry, uh, really looks at themselves and see what they really like. I work with people right now that love dealing with 401ks, big corporate 401ks, right? 100 participant, 1,000 participant, and they love that B2B aspect. Other people love to really use advanced insurance strategies to help small business owners. Others, like myself, like to work with a mass affluent, people with anywhere from 500,000 to a few million. And you have the folks that gravitate towards the very high net worth or ultra high net worth clients, the sports athletes or the business
Hmm.
icons and that type of thing. And every career path that you might choose is filled with, and this is why I love the industry so much, a lot of story problems. Every situation is a little different than the one that you had before, and some of them are a lot different. And it really keeps your brain sharp. The industry is always changing, and you'll see all different types of opportunities of which direction to go in your career. So the first real step is, what do I want to be? What do I really like?
Right.
What do I enjoy? Because you're going to be stuck with it for 30 or 40 years after that.
So then, I mean, getting into it, what would you say are the major advantages that you've seen being being in your current situation now?
All right. Well, thank you. I guess I should describe my current
Yeah,
situation
that
a
would
little
work.
bit. In that, I affiliate with an independent broker dealer. Right. Independent means that you can start your own firm however you want to start it. You can be a solo practitioner, and a lot of people that are solo practitioner, they might answer their own phones, set their own appointments, obviously meet with clients, do their own paperwork. Maybe they have one support or two support people, and that is a great lifestyle business. You can make a lot of money and help a lot of people with maximum flexibility in your calendar, right? There is nobody else really to bounce things off of, nobody to team up with, but it also gives you the most amount of flexibility. That's how a lot of people eventually move there. I kind of started out that way, a modified approach of that, and eventually learned that I really loved marketing. And myself and my cousin Mike Thurman, also co-founder of White Glove, who's also a financial advisor, he loved marketing. And soon we found that we had more than enough leads and prospects in the funnel that we just couldn't handle them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So almost by accident, we started hiring what we'd call sub reps. Um, that we kind of split the revenue that from any of their clients 50-50 ish, and there's all different ways to you know cut that cake, if you will, between the OSJ like ourselves, Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction, and a sub rep. So we just had so much marketing. A lot of advisors are like, "Hey, I want to affiliate with you guys because I don't have anybody to see, and I'm about to fail out of the business if I don't, if I don't have some leads." So we say, "Hey, we got extra." Next thing you know, we had 2, then 3, then 5. Now I think we have 11 or 12 folks that are our sub reps, and their mindset is a little bit different than mine and Mike's. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. Um, we have, of the 11 or 12 other financial advisors in our firm, we have some that absolutely love to just do their own thing. Now, we supervise them for compliance reasons and whatnot, but we do not dictate when they come, when they leave. They're 100% revenue based with managed money and commissions, and they don't get any salary at all. And they love that combination of total flexibility on their part,
Mm-hmm.
but still there's somebody else who has to pay the bills for rent, deal with, what phone system to use, what copier to use. Oh, the receptionist is out sick. Somebody else makes all those decisions for them, and they're basically a business within a business. And again, there's no right or wrong with that. In fact, I'm kind of jealous of those folks quite a bit. Because that is a much more peaceful existence as a financial advisor. But that's what I chose, kind of by default, to have many sub reps, and marketing just keeps going more and more and more. So we just keep growing more and more. Um, other like those same sub reps, if you will, that maybe didn't come to work for somebody that had a lot of marketing. They might go to work for a bank or a warehouse. And a lot of times, if you work at a bank, you have a natural steady stream of potential clients that have balances at the bank, and the tellers share that information with you, and you sit down and see if there's an alternative investment opportunity for that person that's a client of the bank. So that's a very comfortable way to be too. But now you're really into corporate America. So if you're with Bank ABC, let's say, they make all the rules. They tell you when to get there, when to leave, what to recommend, what not to recommend. There's not nearly as much flexibility in your schedule,
Right.
but you got a lot of stability with that. So you really have to think about your personality and also your needs. Do you need leads? Do you need that structure? Do you need more training? Or do you kind of want to do your own thing? So that's the first really big decision. And you'll make that decision in the first, like, say, between year 5 and year 10. And so you're already registered, you're licensed. Now you're going to decide what direction you go. And then you're going to think, for I'll call them rebels, or people that are just really, um, you know, big risk takers. They might spin out on their own, start their own firm, sign on the dotted line for rent, the leases for all the different equipment, go out and find a broker dealer or an F&O or an insurance company to work with, and have all those decisions on their shoulders. And when we did that, Mike and I made a lot of mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
so um, that is a really big con with going the independent route. So there's pros and cons to doing either one.
Are there any of those mistakes that you'd want to hop into so far?
Yeah, I want to be careful what I say. I don't want to use any names here, but
No
there's
names.
different kinds of people that you can affiliate with. And when we had so many extra leads, we thought the best option of what sub advisors to bring into our firm would be the real go getters. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the people that are real go getters, a lot of times, that have high energy and really want to get out there and market themselves, of course, that sounds like a great person to bring
Right.
on. But then they don't want to be underneath somebody else, if you will, and they end up going out on their own. And there's all kinds of conflict that happens with that. So that was a big mistake, is saying, hey, you know what? Um, that's a great person and they're going to be a great advisor, but that's not um, the right person in the right seat for our firm. And our firm, we wanted the people that really were, they didn't want to build their own
Like
business.
they almost wanted someone to lean on.
They absolutely, that's a good way to put it. They wanted somebody to lean on. We have a boutique firm.
Hmm.
And so I think it's the best of both worlds, because you can do your own thing, but you have a group that you can kind of, work with and collaborate with a little bit. But then I talk to other advisors that are extremely successful that might work for a big wirehouse or a bank, and they can't imagine doing it any other way themselves either. So this career is so fruitful and so fantastic and offers so many opportunities for people. I want to say you almost can't, quote unquote, go wrong, as long as you do the right thing for the customer. It's just look at your own personality, and the people that are closest to you in your life, and you kind of make that decision on what direction to go.
So then, touching on personality, I feel like I can kind of gauge where the answer will be, but I'm really curious to hear if it is something different than what I'm already picking up on. So, would you say that like someone who is extremely outgoing, like you said, go getter, they're picking up, they're willing to put in the grind, really doing the work, that would maybe be someone better as a solo practitioner, or would you say the other way around?
I would say that person is going to thrive no matter which direction they go.
That's fair.
Because even if you go and work for a big warehouse, you're still building a business within a business. The difference is the ownership, if that's the right word, the ownership and the rights to continuing to work with those clients. If you decide to make a change, can be different. Um, like usually when you're an independent or something, you have more, we'll call it control over
Okay.
if the clients can follow you or not. And the wirehouses feel, hey, you've been using our name
Hmm.
to build your business within a business. So really we look at things a little bit differently. So that's a major difference. And if it's okay with you, Candace, I also wouldn't mind getting into the nitty gritty a little bit about payouts and you know office sharing and
Yeah.
expenses.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of touched on it, and I had put it in the back of my head earlier when you were talking about when you and Mike had started things off and you guys went 50-50, and then you started getting these sub reps. So I wanted to, I don't know if it's best for you to go into your own personal experience there of how you guys kind of tackled that. I don't want to say like problem or anything, but how did you take care of all that and just make those decisions? Like what is there a norm, or is it
Well,
kind of a free for all when it comes to every firm?
I'm going to expose myself out a little bit
Okay.
here, and that is a lot of it is a guess. I
Okay.
mean, and quite frankly, here's a little business secret. If you happen to be a leader of a team of some sort, you have to look and sound confident. They don't need to know that all this is a guess. If it works out, then great. You really, you feel smart. They think you're really smart. And if it doesn't work out so good, you quickly pivot and do something else, and with a good attitude and confidence, and you're right back at it. So a lot of mistakes were made, a lot of guesses were made, but now we're talking, decades later, that I can look in the rearview mirror, along with Mike and others, and I can see so many other careers that have thrived. And again, there is no right or wrong way to do all this, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we do it, because I know a lot of our listeners are always curious. I do a lot of coaching for White Glove and Acquire Direct and Lead Jig, seminar coaching, but almost every time the advisors, they ask me what my deal is as a financial advisor, what the sub reps deal are, how do you share expenses, how do you share revenue,
Right.
and there's all different flavors. And FMOs handle it different than RIAs, and wirehouses handle it different as well. But if you have some flexibility in there, um, and some control and some discussion, there's really three different aspects to building a business for an individual advisor. And so the more of those three one side of the equation takes on than the other, they should probably get a bigger share of the revenue. So they talk about, hunters versus farmers. There's different types of advising. If you're more of a hunter, you usually get a higher payout. You're a rainmaker. You're bringing in business, fresh business, into the office. If you're a farmer, which is great, you're doing more of the maintenance with the clients and meeting with them, and those folks a lot of times are more of a salaried position and don't have as high earning potential, but also
Mm-hmm.
not really high risk. So what we do at our office is we basically, after our broker dealer takes their share, and most broker dealers, I won't get specific about payouts for myself, but most broker dealers pay out between like 83% and 93%, depending on office production, right? And so let's just pick a number of 90%, right? So if 90% comes into the office, the way we do it, the office pays for everything. They pay for all of the rent, the common employees, the ones that like the we call her the office. She runs the office of first impressions, right? The lobby. She handles the payroll and all that, and we have a communications person, a seminar coordinator. We have 5 or 6 people that are just support for the office. So the office pays for that 100%. We also have a lot of paperwork support, and the men and women that handle all the transfers and the paperwork. Usually, the office pays either 100% for that person or 50% and splits it with the advisor. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But essentially, if $100 comes in, into the office. So that means the office really, or the advisor made GDC, gross dealer concession, of like $111. So now $100 comes into the office after the broker dealer takes their $11, and the office typically would take $50, and the sub advisor would take the other $50. And the office pays all those expenses, and hopefully there's room for profit in there with the $50 that the office takes. And then the advisor has none of the worry or the expense of the staff and the rent and all that and the support. But then they end up with the just, we'll call it pure profit.
Okay.
So that gets a little technical in there,
Mm-hmm.
but I think a little bit more typical a lot of time is kind of a third, a third, a third. Well, what do you mean a third, a third, a third? There's only two entities here, really, the office and then the advisor. Well, there's people that go out there and find all the leads and bring them in, right? That could be the advisor or it could be the office. Then there's the people that see the and close the initial business, and then the folks that service that, as in the farmer. And I've seen people say, well, each of those three those three functions should get 33% of the revenue that comes into the office. And then it's up to the advisor whether or not they want to land the client and continue servicing them, or if they want to just hand that off to somebody else. So there's a lot of ways to slice that. What I say earlier, the cake.
Yes.
I'm a pie guy. Slice the pie. But and again, there's no right or wrong with any of that. But you want everybody to be happy. That's the challenge. Everybody to be happy, and you always deal with different personalities. But in a smaller boutique firm like ours, you can adjust things a little bit differently for this person than somebody else. Maybe somebody wants to take a lot more time off, so they're going to hire a second support person.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, we usually say, okay, well, you pay for half of that second person, and we'll pay half for that second person too. So there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, even in or slice the pie or cut the cake. Even in the wirehouses, they give you a lot of flexibility on that too.
So then I know that you brought up marketing, and you said that like Mike and yourself noticed that you both loved marketing, and that's how you ended up in this
Mm-hmm.
really good problem to have where you had too many leads.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led to this whole hiring on more help, more support then, and then having these sub reps and stuff. So with that, explain to me like these support costs and stuff that are you're having a portion of your commission or whatever goes towards that, goes towards the office. When you're on your own or just a solo practitioner, would you say that those costs, do most people still hire support staff for themselves, or is it just more of a you have less time to yourself because you're doing all of this yourself?
That's a really good question again, and it you know it depends on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Some advisors that I've run into over the last couple of years, they really measure their success by the limited amount of time that they spend in the office. Believe it or not so much on the amount of revenue that they're bringing in or the amount of support that they have. But that's what's so great about this industry. You can take it any direction that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when somebody is let's say a solo practitioner or small really small firm that has all that flexibility, the buck 100% starts and stops with them. They can choose to work a lot harder, make more money, um, more money, more problems.
Right.
That's how some people look at it, and other people say, hey, more money, more happiness. Let's just keep going that way. So you just have to look at yourself. What do I need to pay my bills? Feel comfortable in life, and then really look for not. It's not called. I heard it's not called work-life balance anymore. It's work-life harmony, because with so much technology
Okay.
blending over into the home life, you really want to have the work-life harmony. So that's some of the different ways that you can set up your practice. I'm also happy to talk and coach with anybody. I love talking about this
Mm-hmm.
stuff with others, and I always learn something from how those folks are setting up their office as well.
Stop what you're doing and mark your calendars for October 2nd through 4th, because our favorite event of the year is back, Host University. This year, we're headed to Clearwater, Florida. Join us to discover how to conquer your market using peer-driven strategies and dominate your next financial workshop. We're providing hands-on demos of the latest innovative marketing tools, diving into multifaceted marketing strategies, and offering insights from top trainers like Frank Maselli on enhancing your presentation skills. Experience live presentations and interactive sessions with successful peers, and participate in practical educational workshops where you'll master the art of converting prospects into loyal clients. Save your seat by registering through the link in our show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay, do you feel like we've covered like a lot of the more technical side of like the pay structure, and as we've said a million times, cutting the cake? Like if we've gotten past that, I do have some more personal level questions then to ask,
Sure.
as far as like I hate to keep saying make that decision, because you've made it very clear that there's so many different paths,
And they're all awesome.
yeah, yes, and I love that outlook too. And even the more that you and I have talked, it's made it clear to me that even within those paths that there's so many different ways that you can run your business. So with that, like how would you say that just being a financial advisor alone, I'm sure it seems to me in my experience in the industry that it is a very time consuming and just it the work-life harmony
Yeah.
seems to be something that you really have to keep in mind if it's something that's important to you, or else you'll be like one of these few people that you've mentioned that fail out in the first 5 years because they might not be able to keep up, or it might just not be for them, like that grind and that hard work. So tell me, and I don't even know if this is an easy question to answer, but when deciding on any of these paths, if you can even just touch on a few, is there a certain path or decision that you can make that might be better suit for someone who isn't necessarily equipped for that stress level, or maybe needs a little bit taken off of them, or they want more family time, or like you said, they value success more so in how much time is spent in the office, not necessarily in revenue? So that's a very open-winded question, but if you can kind of get where I'm going, of just what are the options available to make, like, I guess, what would be the paths available to someone who isn't equipped for that type of stress level?
Yeah, you're talking about the smart people, the people
Yeah,
that
I
don't
guess
want
so.
to, have a lot of sleepless nights, and tough decisions with the spouse and all that kind of thing, and make those
Mm-hmm.
those tough decisions. um you find some. First of all, I said every option is great no matter where you go. There's one exception to that, and that is working with jerks. There's a lot of jerks in every industry, right? And there's some in our industry as well. Surround yourself with good people, and you can't go wrong in this industry. Not just the good clients, but your coworkers, the support. Um, so if you're just more of a person that doesn't want to deal with all that stress and how do I market and who do I hire and should we move the office, should we change broker dealers, blah blah blah, then finding somebody that you like, trust, that has a lot of compassion, that really, all of our sub reps, we don't speak in those terms like I am today. We are business partners. Sometimes I'll be at a dinner party or something and say, "Oh yeah, this is my boss, Dean," or something. No, we work together. We're partners. We split revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So you really want to be somebody that they win when you win. That they're invested in your success, and not just your financial success, but also your personal success, right? Somebody that cares about your family and wants to make sure that you do good for you, whatever your definition of success is. If you can find that type of person to partner with, work with, man, you've hit the lottery. And you hang on to that person. And we have a lot of them, here at White Glove. We have a lot of them,
Right.
in our financial planning firm. And you just want to make sure that you're with the right people, and then you really can't go wrong. So it's not so much about what path should you pick. I mean, pretty obvious. You're not going to be the person that has to make all those decisions, right? Now you have to decide: do I work with a wirehouse or a independent broker dealer, an FMO? None of those really matter. It just matters that when you're talking to the people that you're going to be working with, that there's a really good connection. You can tell that they're a really good person.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, I swear I'm not paid to say this, but I really love the people that I work that I
Hmm.
work with here at White Glove. So
And they love
I,
you too,
yeah,
Candace. I hear that all the time.
I can definitely stand behind that. I think that when work gets stressful, there's no way around it. It's going to happen. But you're right. I think that if you have the support and you're not dealing with jerks like you said, it makes a big difference. When you guys made the decision, it goes back to just having a really good problem of having too many leads and wanting to help everybody, but also not maybe being able to give everyone the same amount of care and love that you want, because
Hmm.
there's just too many and now you're having to turn
True.
people away. So when you guys kind of sat down, tell me a little bit about the decision making process, or like what you and Mike looked at and talked about, and like should we do this, like was it kind of a like yes this is going to happen, or was there any pushback or fears in that time?
There's fears every day. I mean, no matter which way you go. And I don't think that our path and our decision tree, if you will, throughout our careers, for financial planning careers, are any different than anybody else's. And that's why I really was looking forward to this podcast, because I remember just always wondering, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What are other people doing? What do they know that I don't know? And if you don't get anything else out of this podcast, I really want people that are listening, that are, at those inflection points in their career, that nobody has it figured out. There is no, cookie cutter. This is the
Mm-hmm.
best way to go. It's what is the way that gives you you reach your goals, both personally as well as professionally. Remember that work life harmony. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's so awesome about this career. So don't ever, I won't say second guess yourself. I know that there's people that go and they work for this FMO or work for that RIA or whatever, and then they decide, oh my gosh, that was a terrible mistake, I got to pivot. It's almost always because of the people that were there. They just didn't believe in those people or the vision of those folks. So just really get hooked up with the right people, and you'll quickly realize they're not, if they're not, and then you make a quick pivot. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, great. I want to actually do my own little pivot here in our conversation. Play on words. But So, leaning into more of like a client's perspective, and I actually have another question that I came up with
Hmm.
while we've just been talking, and totally feel free to be like, no, Candace, that's not a thing. But I'm curious from what like conversations that you had with clients when you and Mike made this switch, because I'm just really stuck on like it had to have been like a really big change for you guys, starting all of this out, but also still working with your clients. Did you feel like you got like a lot of support from clients when you guys made the switch to open InvestWise, or like start bringing on some sub advisors and stuff, or did you feel like there was a little bit of like nervousness from your clients?
So that's a good question, and I'm going to answer it a little different way,
Hmm.
because my clients never knew that we expanded and hired sub reps, and because remember they're seeing new people. We had too much marketing, so all these new people coming in
Right.
aren't seeing me; they're seeing the new sub reps. However, about 6 or 7 years ago, when I was in let's say the seventh inning of my career, which I think I'll go into extra innings, but when I was in the seventh inning, I really had to step back to help oversee White Glove and help lead White
Hmm.
Glove. And that's when I brought in a very trusted, mature financial advisor to sit with me as a co-planner. And that's a whole nother episode in and of itself of how once you get in the seventh or eighth inning, of your career, how do you set up the succession plan and make it fair for everybody, and that continuity of care to each of your clients, which I think is what you really is the crutch
Yeah.
of your question. So they didn't notice it, because they weren't affected. My clients weren't affected by when Mike and I decided to hire sub reps, but they certainly were when I brought another team member. Now I have two that for the last 5 years that are meeting with my clients with me, and many times without me. So we'll cover that question in its own
Okay,
episode
great.
someday.
Yeah, I had no idea if it was going to be a deep one or not. So
It's so
that's
deep we can't even cover it here. So yes, it'll be a big one.
wonderful. Well, then even that, I mean, I think it's great to like round out all of this staying on that client perspective. So with it, do you feel like there is there is a type of advisor that's best for someone when they're trying to decide who to work with, if that is a solo practitioner or if it is someone in one of these larger advisory firms? And I know that obviously there is no right or wrong answer, but I don't know if there's a way to necessarily say that someone, a certain type of person should pair themselves up with a certain type of advisor.
That is a very complex question, and you know the quality of care that a client receives can somewhat be determined by the type of firm that their financial advisor works for, works with, or runs. An example here, get back to the high net worth. I just happened, coincidentally, had dinner with somebody, new family friend, and he's a very successful doctor, and he asked me what I did, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a new client, right? And he starts telling me about his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law, I told him about the seminars that we did and so forth, and he talks about how his brother-in-law is a great financial advisor, and deals with all the clients of local sports celebrities and that type of thing, and how this other advisor has charisma like crazy, is a scratch golfer. Everybody wants to be with that person, and that's if you are a really high complex affluent person, you probably need to affiliate with somebody that has um, a whole structure behind them, a whole network behind them that can help with private banking and alternative investments and all kinds of things that people that have $50 million and more really need to think about. But if you're a mass affluent or even somebody just getting started, it really doesn't matter if your financial advisor works for a wirehouse, a bank, independent broker dealer, an FMO, an RIA. As long as you're with a good, caring, quality, trustworthy person that will give you the attention that you deserve, as far as how they go about helping you isn't the most important thing. assuming that they're using really good investment vehicles and they're
Yeah.
ethical and they're not these big high commission, things that are of the past. So I
Okay,
hope that
yeah.
answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, it does. I mean, it answered it further honestly than I expected, because I know that
Oh,
I
good.
that was a super very open-ended, how are you supposed to say who's right and who's
Oh, and
wrong?
I want to tag on to something on that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, you also, when you as a consumer, when there's a consumer out there, if they go to the dentist or the hair salon or something like that, you want to get somebody that really knows you and likes you and all
Mhm.
that stuff. But a lot of times that's kind of, you're with them for a year or two or three or something. It's not a big deal. Or it's just a transaction, your accountant or your lawyer, and you try, then you switch. Financial advisor, I mean, most people hire a financial advisor in their 50s or 60s. They don't want to be switching that again in their 70s or 80s.
Right.
If so the consumer has to work with somebody that they can stand looking at for the next 20 or 30 years, 2 or 3 times a year. And so that personality needs to be there, and that commonality. And
So really
so
that's bigger than anything.
that is a really big piece of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time, of how much that, I mean, obviously you need to know what you know and be good at what you do, but you have to connect with someone. So,
Connect, that's a great word for it. Yeah, it has to be a good connection.
well, I love all of this, and I do feel like there's so much that we could have dove even further into, and obviously we will as episodes come out. And I want to ask you, earlier you had said you had made tons of mistakes along the way, which I always love that about you, that you're willing to admit these things, because it only helps other people that are listening, and other people that are anywhere along their journey, to get to where you are, or to get somewhere on their own journey. So with that, I want to ask you, in relation to this topic, what is something that you would have done differently before, having seen and experienced and witnessed all of these other facets of the financial industry and financial careers around you? What's something that you would have maybe changed
Mm.
back then, even if it doesn't mean that it would
I,
change now? But
you know what? As you were talking, I'm like, I don't really have any. And then I thought, wait, no, there's that one, and then there's that one, and then there's that one. So a few of them. Number one, I never got my CFP, and I think that that's something that I really wish that I would have got. That's kind of the gold standard. It's not right for everybody, but now all of the advisors at our office, we're really encouraging and paying for them to get their CFP,
Mhm.
mostly because I regret not getting that myself. So that was one regret. I already touched on the other one, where when we initially started hiring other advisors, we hired that personality type that really wants to go out and start their own business.
Right.
So that was a mistake, and we course corrected, and now we have the people that they feel very comfortable being part of an organization, but not necessarily
Understandable. It's an
leading it.
understandable mistake, honestly.
Yeah. And then the other one is not keeping track of my numbers the first 20 years of the business. It's really just been the last 10 or 15 years where we kept track of all of our marketing spend, and how long a client's been with us, and segmenting the book and really running the business like a business. So I had the mindset. I didn't realize what a business person I was, if you will, that I just want to be a financial advisor. That
Right.
kind of backed into all this businessy stuff, even though I had a business degree. So I wish that I would have really treated my practice like a business earlier on, but
From the
course
very
corrected on
beginning.
that as well.
Awesome. I mean, all three of those I love. So it sounds like there's some advice there. Get your CFP.
Yeah, for sure. Get your CFP. I don't think you'll ever regret. You'll ever
Regret
regret
having
doing
it.
that. You won't regret, working with great people. And I don't know anybody that regrets really keeping track of their
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, definitely. I
Unless they're
think
really bad numbers, then don't keep track of them. Just
no,
do
that's
something else.
fair. I mean, you guys jumped into it and just were like, let's go. Let's do this.
Backed into a lot of it, and I think that's how a lot of our listeners kind of I don't know, muddled their way through the career. That's
Mhm.
how I did it. Is a good word, but a lot of it is luck, opportunity, and just backing into something.
Honestly, all three of those are amazing. So kudos to you for those ones. So yeah, anyone listening, I mean, that's all three had a lot of substance to them.
And I
But
have to say, this was Candace's idea for this episode like this. And I love talking about this business and the all the great people that we work with and that we run into as hosts of White Glove seminars and Acquire Direct seminars over the years. So I could do this kind of episode time and time again. There's so much
Yeah,
to dig into. So thank you,
of course.
Candace,
Thank
for.
you. I mean, I'm kind of the marketing brains behind the our B2B side, so I totally understand how it goes to have to grab leads and that whole, mindset on a business. So it's always very interesting to hear anything that has to do with like when you started out and how you are such a marketing brain yourself too.
And
So
you know why I'm a marketing brain? Because I'm terrible at asking for referrals. I bet you most of the people listening are like, well, why isn't he talking about referrals? It's all this marketing. Well, yeah, you go out of business if you don't have referrals. I just never felt comfortable asking, and I should have. And other people grow their practice like crazy. But that's part of remember the personality trait, right? If you don't have that outgoing, charismatic, come out to the golf course, give me a referral personality,
it's
which
a
I
little
don't.
silly though, because you kind of do.
Well, you think I do, but I
So
don't, man. I'm a shaking little
I feel
chihuahua
like
inside. I just pretend on the outside.
anyone's gonna hear that and be like, I know Dean Thurman.
You could ask my co-advisors. I accidentally asked for a referral yesterday. I think it was the first time in 20 years, and they were sitting in the office with me. So
Did it work?
no.
Oh.
So it's gonna be another 20 before I do it again.
Well, that's okay. You gotta have some failures along the way. It would have been a way cooler story though.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Dean. Thank you so much. I mean, I learned so much from you within the industry, and just there's so much valuable information here. So I hope that you guys also just took even an ounce away wherever you are on your journey. So thank you so much.
I certainly hope so, and thank you, Candace.
For tuning in to the Fast Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Have any questions or comments about the show? You can submit them on our website at whiteglove.com/fastpodcast. The views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of White Glove or InvestWise Financial. The content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered as a substitute for professional investing advice. Once again, thank you for joining us on the Fast Podcast.